This is Andy Purewal for ID Boxing. I'm joined by promoter Frank Warren here in London. Frank, it's the first time I've seen you in a while, so just keep things cordial. How are you? How's life been treating you?
Yeah, I'm okay. Yourself?
I'm all good, as I say. It's good to catch up. Obviously, we're here. It's a big press conference. Fury-Chisora 3. Frank, how easy was this fight to put together?
Well, it wasn't. It's quite hard, but we've been scrambling around because we all thought the Joshua fight was going to happen, and when that all fell apart, we've been trying to make sure that Tyson gets a fight by the end of the year to be prepared to fight. So he's in preparation for the Usyk fight, and that's where we are.
We'll obviously come on to all of that stuff shortly, but let's just start off with this bout. What do you actually anticipate to happen going into December 3rd, Frank? Because Tyson's a heavy favourite.
He should be heavy favourite. He's been heavy favourite in his last fight. He's a heavy favourite. He's the best heavyweight on the planet, and he's the best heavyweight of his generation. Of course he'd be favourite. So it's now up to Chisora to see what he can do. You know, one thing you know about Chisora, he's game. He comes to fight, and he's going to try and get himself into the real big time.
I'm sure you've seen kind of a negative reception to the fight announcement, Frank. What have you made of it?
Well, I don't like a negative reception. Of course I don't. But then I'm going to do it with you because I keep doing it with everybody. What our options were. BoxRec's is the most respected ratings, yeah, independent rankings. Number one is Usyk, who we thought we were going to fight in December, but Usyk is himself pulled himself out of it, said he won't be ready till spring. Anthony Joshua, he wasted a month on that. He's out. Deontay Wilder's number 3. He just fought. So he's not available. Andy Ruiz is fighting Wilder in a final eliminator for the title. Then you've got Dillian Whyte, who he's just beat. Then you've got Joe Joyce, who's not available because he only fought recently and he's on holiday. Then you've got Luis Ortiz, who we couldn't do anything with. Then you've got Joseph Parker, who got beat by Joe Joyce. And the next one at number 9 is Derek Chisora. That's the independent. They're not my rankings. They're their rankings. They're the ones we all go by.
Just on kind of a couple of those names then, Frank, obviously I understand Ortiz wouldn't have been possible, especially on the back of him losing to Andy Ruiz recently, yeah. But I know he's looking towards a final eliminator, but could he have not been explored more of an option? And on Joe Joyce, he said that if it was pushed...
Final eliminator is what it is. I don't know whether he's even available to fight. It is what it is. I mean, look, this has been very difficult, not down to us, down to the fact that Usyk pulled himself out and Joshua pulled himself out. So we are where we are.
Joe Joyce did say if it was maybe a couple of weeks later on around December.
A couple of weeks later. We've got a book for the 3rd and that's the end of it. And he's on holiday. I mean, you know, this is what it is. So you can sit here, keep throwing names that are not available. So why do you keep doing it? It's impossible.
I'm just kind of going off what was discussed previously, Frank. So obviously...
Previously with who?
Just kind of what Joe Joyce, as I said, Joe Joyce mentioned December 7th.
I told you he's not going to be available for this date. This is the date we've got.
On this date then, Frank, obviously December 3rd, how come the move from Millennium Stadium to the Spurs Stadium?
Because we had to make financial sense of it, and that's why we're here.
Obviously, one of the concerns will be if the weather turns on the night. How much of a factor did that come into kind of a decision-making there?
Listen, the weather can turn, and has turned in summer. I mean, Belfast, when we did the show with Cole Frampton there, it peed down, didn't it? We did the show up in Scotland with Mike Tyson, it peed down. It just happens. I mean, I can't predict the weather.
Just on kind of fighters, Mahoud Charr said that he'd received a contract for this fight, Frank. Can you tell me anything about that?
No, he hasn't got a contract for this fight.
It's all good. And also on Anthony Joshua stuff, as you mentioned, he was kind of...
And by the way, Charr's not ranked. But I've got no problem. I'd like to give him a fight. I mean, he may fight on the card. We'll see.
Who would you actually look to? Obviously, you've got Dubois versus Lerena on the undercard, so who else would you look to potentially give Charr?
See if who's around. I'm sure somebody's around for him to fight.
You mentioned, obviously, the Anthony Joshua situation. It was a huge disappointment we couldn't get that fight, Frank. From your perspective, why did that one fall through?
I think Frank Smith said yesterday, he done an interview, didn't he, yesterday on IFL and told you why it didn't take place. They didn't feel they had enough time. Wish they'd have told us that at the beginning, but that's where it's at.
Alexander Usyk next year, Frank. Do you think it's realistic that we will definitely see Tyson and Alexander shivering?
Provided he don't trip up on the 3rd, I think we will. I mean, that's the fight. We thought we were going to get it for December, and it was only that Usyk said he wouldn't be ready.
This on BT Sport box office, Frank. Do you have any idea on kind of a pricing front yet?
No, not yet. They'll announce that in due course.
In comparison to the Dillian fight, how would you expect it to fare?
I think it's going to do extremely well. It's Tyson Fury.
So, perfect, good, Frank. And then just touch on Dubois-Lerena. How did you end up with Lerena, Frank?
Finding somebody who's available for him to fight, a decent opponent who would test him, and he is a really decent opponent. He's only lost one fight, and that was, I think, about 8 years ago, and he reversed that decision. He's a southpaw. He's now fighting at heavyweight, and I think he's going to get. You know, he will pose some questions for Daniel to answer.
Obviously, others again were looking at maybe Michael Hunter. I spoke to Shane McGuigan about him. He said that it was looked at but couldn't be done beyond Lerena. What do you think is most likely next for Daniel, provided he doesn't triple?
Let's get him through this fight first of all.
And again, just kind of moving forwards, Parker-Ryder, Frank, terrific fight. Yeah. Talk to me about it.
You just said all that needs to be said about it. It's a terrific fight. You know, that old adage, styles make fights. They will make a fight, and you know, it's a rival camps, and I'm really looking forward to it. You know, I'm a big believer in Zach, but John Ryder is a tough guy, and he's had some good results lately, and been unlucky as well.
What were the talks like with that other side, shall we say?
It was done very quickly.
Does that give you kind of a promising sign moving forwards if, I say, the AJ fight was to be revisited, that it could be done?
Depends if they want the fight or not. If they fancy the fight, it'd be done, wouldn't it?
If down the line that did happen, Frank, in your opinion, how big would Fury AJ be?
Well, it depends if AJ what he does in his next few fights and what he comes back looking like.
We saw Deontay Wilder returning as Robert Helenius, Frank, a stunning first-round stoppage win.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very short punch. I mean, you know, he's a powerful man. That tells you all you need to know about Tyson.
It's been an interesting topic since Deontay's return. People are starting to say, where does he rank? Some people still have him maybe the third, if not fourth best heavyweight in the world. For you, how would you rank your top 5 heavyweights, Frank?
I think Tyson's up. Tyson's number 1. I think Deontay, he's there. I would say Joe Joyce. I'd put Dubois. I would say that because they're fighters that I'm involved with. I think you know the rest of them are all there or thereabouts. You know, they are what they are. I've read out a load of names. You've seen them, and they are. That it is what it is. I just feel that we over here are blessed with really good heavyweights. And you know, if you'd have asked me that and talked about Joe Joyce a couple of weeks before his fight, people would be saying he should be in that position. But I think everybody acknowledges now what a good fighter he is.
On the undercard front, Frank, for both this and Parker-Ryder, talk me through. I know you've announced some fights for Parker-Ryder, but when should we expect more for, say, this one?
Well, we want to get this out of the way, and then we'll do that on Monday.
But Frank, and I'm going to leave a final one from you. Anything you'd like to say to everybody ahead of December 3rd?
No, just be there. It's going to be an exciting night. You're going to see the most entertaining heavyweight in history, or I'd say in recent history, other than Muhammad Ali. He's a massive entertainer. He's a great fighter. Come and see him. I don't even know whether this will be his last fight in the UK. We'll see. See what happens after he comes through this and wins. If he wins this, then he goes on to fight Usyk, and we'll see where we go from there.
Right, Frank, I appreciate your time. Thanks for speaking to me, Andi.
Pleasure, man. Cheers.